Welcome to hell. There is no escape. There is no escape. You are in my control now. Welcome to hell.
Welcome to Hell, everybody, and welcome to Hell Team Doom for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror, the horror podcast where your nightmares and dreams all meet. You guys still want to follow me, follow your boy on Instagram, Walterdoom, Walterdoom1 on Twitter, and Walterdoom everywhere else that involves streaming. And I had to bring back the world of Doom, or the world that is of World of Doom. So yeah, I mean, does she need much of an intro? Probably she does. It's only right. Isn't it right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, as you guys know, if you don't know, she is a cosplayer. She is a third of the greatest podcast, The Sauce Talk. Yeah, I'm kind of overhyping it up right now. She is 1/3 of the Black Avengers. As I mentioned before, she is like the World of Doom. So yeah, let's give it up for Meaganzworld, everybody. Hey. Yeah. Reunited, and it feels so good.
Hey.
All right, that was for the black people out there that's listening. White people, you're included too. Don't trip. But yeah, how you doing, Meg?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited for this episode as always, and excited to collaborate with you again as always.
Yep, I am too. I am excited for this episode. I mean, we got something exciting for you guys. But before we get into that, if you guys want to follow Meaganzworld, it is just Meaganzworld on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else. So Meaganzworld is, if you guys are wondering the spelling, it's Meaganzwo. I said double O. WORLD. So once again, Meaganzworld, everybody. What we're going to talk about today is pretty much something kind of interesting that we're trying to get into, which was like the It movies, because recently we both kind of watched the It movie, correct?
Yeah, we did. We pretty much binge watched it from the 1991 to the 2018 one. That's when it came out, 2018, 2019, something like that. Oh, I think it's
2017 and 2019.
Okay, there we go.
Yep,
so yeah. And it was a journey. Those movies are long as hell.
Oh yeah, those movies are long as hell. But what's the crazy thing about it is, like, after rewatching the movies, I'm realizing how the original It movie doesn't really feel long as far as like the 2-part miniseries goes. Like, the whole thing within itself is about 3 hours long. Now, when I was younger, because I actually had to buy this film on DVD, I never saw this movie like on television when it was on ABC and everything. And I never really saw it on television or anything else. They never really showed it like anywhere like on television. So each time, and I'm gonna have to say, like, maybe when I was like in, I want to say middle school, I remember going into Blockbuster or just like any video store in general, but mainly Blockbusters. And I remember seeing that cover of Pennywise ripping out of like the corner of like the DVD cover, with the little fucking alien hand showing out and everything.
I remember that too.
Yep. And ever since I saw that cover, I've always been interested in seeing this movie. And I've always had in my mind, like, this movie must be scary as hell, just based on the cover.
Same.
Unknown to me, about what was about to lie ahead. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was.
Exactly. No, same. Well, personally, I've never seen it until adulthood. And I actually watched the remake first before actually watching the entire miniseries. So, it was all new thing to me. I don't have like that nostalgia of the It miniseries. However, it's a pretty great series, even though it's not that scary. There are some like scary scenes, and we'll get into it, as the episode goes on. But it's definitely an interesting ride, kind of seeing everything unfold.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to give y'all a disclaimer, and I'm gonna have to also say I am not promoting this either. But if y'all read the book It before, y'all know there's like a scene in the book that's kind of like not safe for anybody. And that could possibly put you on a list, it feels like, after reading it. I don't want to go into great details about it, but based on like that little section of the book, because it is kind of like I feel like it is a pivotal scene to where like the kids are going from like being kids into adulthood, even though it's in the most grotesque way possible. But it also kind of like, I feel like it also speaks on like the characters themselves, at least for like the characters that are being picked for these films, So, what are some of your thoughts about the miniseries, since we're now going to get into the meat and potatoes of all of this? I'm gonna say that one scene is just my, take on like the characters. That's not Meg's,
Well, to a certain extent, because that was one outlier, knowing that was in the original book, and of course you can't show that on TV, and you can probably only reference that if you're really risky in in movies, but they didn't. But going back to the miniseries, though, I thought the miniseries did a great job with the scenes with the adults. Like their whole sections were really good, especially their character development. I thought that was incredible. As far as the scenes with the kids, there's something that was lacking. Like, I don't know what it is. It just seemed like it was going by like way too fast with the kid scenes. But there were things that were added. Like, I like the ending of the miniseries better than I do of the film series. And that ending in the miniseries was actually the ending in the book to a certain extent. So I don't know. I mean, both endings are kind of like weird to me, but I feel like that one made a lot more sense.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think the storyline, going back to what you said about the adults, they did do a good job in the miniseries dealing with the adults, and just dealing with like their traumas and what have you. I feel like the remakes do kind of jump into it a little bit more, I guess, in depth, but it creates like scenes that is like, why is this here? And we'll get to that a little bit later on when we talk about our whole section about It Chapter 2. I gotta say right now, people, we're about to like throw a dumpster fire on this movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people already did, but we're about to throw even more fire on it.
But yeah, like going back to like the miniseries too, like you could tell adults wrote the dialogue for kids, or at least not that well, because that was the cringiest thing about the miniseries is just like, I understand it takes place in the 1960s and all that, but the kids' dialogue is just so weak to me, and it's just like laughable. I'm like, what? Kids talk like that?
I bet your fern they did.
Yeah. That's what you used to say about kids. I bet your fern. But yeah,
that's one thing that kind of like, that's one thing I could appreciate about like the remake itself, because it's more freedom. Because I felt like the kids didn't talk like that, honestly, in the 1960s. Now, granted, Henry Bowers was able to say the N-word.
Right?
Yeah, he had the liberty to say that. But as far as like, anything else that was like derogatory, like the kids didn't even say hell or damn. And that's kind of like, when you're at that age of like, maybe because they were supposed to be like 11, the kids at that age will probably be saying hell or damn.
Exactly. And then especially for Richie's character too, like I know he's supposed to be like this obnoxious comical kid, but the reason why they say beep beep Richie is because of his language. Of course, there's only so much language you can actually say with ABC, but like at least throw in a damn or hell or like, an innuendo here and there.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of funny with Seth Green being
right. That it's so crazy seeing Seth Green being like in that movie. It's crazy because there was a lot of people in that movie that I was just like, wow, they were in this movie. Like Tim Reed.
Yes.
Like my biggest memory about Tim Reed was him being on Sister Sister.
That part. And the characters are so different, but like Tim Reed did the damn thing. He was really great as adult Mike. Like, like honestly, my favorite character of the series, like by far.
Yeah.
Or at least for his like adult characters. I mean, of course, like Tim Curry's Pennywise, like iconic.
Oh, yeah.
But like if you're talking about the Losers Club and everything and the adult Losers Club, like, yeah, his Mike is really great.
Yeah, definitely. Another person was like John Ritter. It was just like, seeing him in this film. I mean, rest in peace. But the most I remember about John Ritter, and I'm pretty sure like a lot of people remember him from like, I believe it was like Three's Company was the show he was on. But the show I remember him most on was like 3 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter with Kaylee Cuoco on there, and Katie Seagal too, like that was like my memories of John Ritter. I don't have that memories of Three's Companies on me because for one, that was probably like somewhat before my time.
Oh yeah, no, it was from like the 70s and 80s, but you know what? I have that Three's Company nostalgia because I used to watch it on TV Land. And like, what is my 7-year-old self watching Three's Company? Like that show was like raunchy for its time.
What is your 7-year-old self watching TV Land? Oh my God. I remember as being a kid, like when it came to TV Land, I was like, no, I'm not about to sit here and watch fucking I Love Lucy and all that.
Oh, man, that's just my shit. Man, I was all about TV Land.
The funny thing though is that I ended up liking a little bit of I Love Lucy as I got older.
Good show.
Going back to like some of the characters, I have to always remember Seth Green is not really that young.
Yeah, like the casting seemed very out of place with these characters because like I was questioning like how old are these kids supposed to be, and I think they're like 11, which is like which was kind of like I think that's what their age were supposed to be in the book, but it was just like
they were supposed to be 12.
They were supposed to be 12. Oh, okay. But anyway, like Seth Green and then Bill Heller. Seemed like he was 14. Both of them seemed like they were 14, and like it was out of place. And then
Yeah.
like, you know, Henry Bowers and his crew, like they looked like they were 14. I know there was like, you know, the
They
bully.
looked like they were like 15 or 16 almost.
Right. And I was just like, what are these teenagers picking on these kids? You kind of get that for It Chapter 1 too, but it makes more sense in the context of the story since they're supposed to be in like middle school, like late middle school. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Kind of.
Yeah. But it does feel like almost like they're in a school with all ages though. Because some of the kids, they know how to drive, you know, and Henry Bowers is like rolling with like the people that know how to drive and everything.
Exactly. So it seems like a middle high school, you know?
Yeah. That's what my thought was. Just by the way, disclaimer, people, I didn't read the book. I've only like went through like synopsis of the book. So yeah, and like that whole scene with the losers club, I only know about that because it's been like the long talked about controversy. So kind of like I want to dig into a little bit more of the characters. What did you think about Henry Bowers, like between the two, like between miniseries Bowers and, you know,
definitely,
the movie Bowers?
Yes. So Nicholas Hamilton, who played the Henry Bowers of the 2017 version, looks like he could kill somebody. And spoilers, he did. And I thought that was perfect. I mean, like, yo, did the thing. I just like,
but see,
dude, I was actually terrified. And like, I saw this in theaters and, you know, grown ass adult terrified of this kid. Like, like if I'm walking across the street and we're walking in the same, you know, the same side of the street, I'm crossing the street. Like I am.
No lie, that kid did look like he could kill somebody, in which he really did kill somebody eventually. You know, the thing about me, I felt like the Bowers in the miniseries, I felt like he was a punk ass kid. Like, like he acted tough, but if you stepped up to him, that dude would crumble, you know?
Yeah. So, I don't know what it was, if it was like the greaser hairstyle that just like, I mean, I know that's the style of the day, but it's just like, it just seemed like he was a punk kid.
Oh yeah. Like I just felt like he was not that terrifying. Like he was racist and all that other, you know, good shit or bad shit, really. But like a terror, nah. I didn't see him as that. Like I was just like, man, if anybody can somebody put this kid in his place right now?
Exactly. But even like Bowers' crew in the remake, like they were also terrifying. Like,
oh yeah, Hockstetter.
Like Patrick. Oh my god.
Yes, that dude. I felt like he was a better accomplice to come back to life than Belch. Belch was just like he burped in people's faces. Like
exactly.
Okay. Kind of nasty shit is this, you know? But Hockstetter, that dude was lighting people on fire. Like, I'm like, oh nah. You just as crazy as Bowers.
And that one scene in the hallway where they're all like staring at the Losers Club. Like, if you just look at Hockstetter or Patrick or whatever, same person.
Yeah.
And how he's looking at them, terrifying. Like, I think he's even more terrifying than Bowers in that scene.
Seriously. Hey, going back to Bowers a little bit, what about adult Bowers?
Okay, again, we have to go to the remake with that one. Teach Grant did the damn thing. I mean, like, Michael Cole, he's a legend in, like, you know, acting. However, he was too damn old to play Bowers. Like, compared to the cast and everything, that was another problem, like, with the miniseries. It's just, like, the casting, it seemed like for both the kids and the adults, like everyone just seemed like they were completely different, like decades apart, which in reality, yes, probably so. But it's just like, change up the makeup or something, because like some of the characters look like they're in their early 30s. Some of them look like they're in the 40s and 50s. Like, like, but they're all supposed to be the same age. So that was one thing.
Yeah, I think that was my biggest issue with like the miniseries as far as like dealing with the kids, you know? Mm-hmm. Like I felt like Beverly, she looked way too damn young in the miniseries. Like she looked like she was like barely hitting middle school. Mm-hmm. And maybe it is like her being like playing exactly the age of 11, but at the same time, I'm like thinking to myself, like, I can't see her be that Beverly in the actual It books.
That exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, I mean, I feel like both, you know, the miniseries and the movie kind of hinted at Beverly exploring her sexuality and stuff in different ways and kind of being flirtatious with everyone. I mean, like Beverly, she would in the miniseries, you know, she would give like kisses on the cheek and stuff like that. And the adult Beverly was straight up making out with Bill, a married man. Like, what?
Keep in mind, she was in her little underwear and shit like that when they was at the little fucking dam and all that.
Well, yeah, that was in the movie. And then that, you're just kind of like, okay, I could see where they're really hinting at that one scene in the movie. And I think they handled it pretty well because, you know, at her school, she already had like a reputation for like no reason and stuff. And then you understand eventually why she has that, because she's gone through that trauma, you know, of being abused and stuff like that. But, you know, it's all different layers of it. So you definitely see this about, you could definitely like not picture, that's a bad way to say that, but you could definitely see that character doing those things that were mentioned in the novel, you know, at least the version. And plus it seems like a little, like I hate to say it, a little less cringe because it aged up the characters, but still, and it's like, you know, but it's hard talking about this stuff. Hey, don't cancel me, like King, all this. He wrote it, I didn't.
Cancel Stephen King, y'all.
Don't cancel that. Like,
it's like, how can you cancel Stephen King? I'm just literally like thinking to myself, you can't cancel Stephen King. At this point, it's like he wrote so much fuck shit in all of his books. It's like half the stuff he writes doesn't really get interpreted in the movies, you know?
Right.
And after watching this one video about like the interpretation of it and everything that happens in the book, they mentioned about other books where he just writes some major fuck shit, especially in Dr. Sleep. Like Rose the Hat, she actually ends up like sleeping with the one girl. I forget her name, but she was like the I think it was Snakeskin Lily or whatever her name was. Yeah,
and she's like a teenager, and it's like, what?
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like, Stephen King, why are you doing all this like
yeah
gross shit with minors, like, you know, like, but I don't know. And I like almost try to like, that scene was kind of gratuitous to me, the, you know, stuff in it, but now I kind of like, after reading or watching a summary about it and like reading a little bit about it, I'm like, okay, I kind of get it, because throughout that entire book, she's exploring herself because of, you know, the abuse from her dad and stuff, and trying to take ownership of said thing. Yes, it's the most extreme way, but I'm like, okay, the character, this doesn't seem like it's a scene for just shock value, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it would have been crazy if they actually kind of hinted in the movie, at least in part 2, they hinted that, but they didn't like mention it at all in part 1. That would have been fucking crazy. I think people would have lost their shit, honestly.
They'll be like, oh, that's what happened in the clubhouse. No. Yeah.
Oh my God. Speaking of the clubhouse, let's say we take a break right now because we got to get into chapter 2 right now.
We do. And a little bit more of chapter 1 because we got to talk about how awesome that shit was.
Yeah, I feel like more like we'll bring it all together after this break because yeah, we were kind of teasing the audience a little bit. Sorry, you guys. But yeah, we'll be right back and we'll talk more about it, chapter 1, 2, and the miniseries. So like you shouldn't say in a scary movie, I'll be right back. All right, and we are back, you guys, and I am back with Meaganzworld, and we are now going to talk about a little bit about the It movies, a little bit about more of the things on it, and just like some poll results that we did. Oh my God, look at me not able to talk now. But some poll results that we both did on Instagram. Now, let's start off with the poll results because this is going to dive more into the characters and just our personal thoughts about like who played who better, honestly. So kind of like just starting off. So what was your poll results for Pennywise? First off, let's start with that. Let's start with an easy one because
yeah.
And we'll talk about more of like who we like,
So yeah, between Tim Curry and Bill Skarsgård, it was neck and neck at first for my poll results, but Tim Curry ended up being the winner with 55% and Bill Skarsgård with 45%.
Oh, yours was very close. Mine was a landslide. Everybody was like, fuck Bill Skarsgård. It's all about the Curry, But 75% went with Tim Curry over Bill Skarsgård. Now, me personally, I'm a Bill Skarsgård fan, honestly.
You know what? Yeah. Like, for me, I can't really choose because each of the portrayals are so different. One thing I do like about Tim Curry's Pennywise, at least for the first half of the movie, dealing with the kids, is that he looks like a regular clown, and that has to do with like costuming and makeup and stuff like that. But he also portrayed him as a regular clown other than the demonic shit, So it was like that there's that trickery in there that kids could be lured to, and then it just is like out of nowhere, whereas Bill Skarsgård was like creepy Pennywise from the jump.
Oh, and
like I'm kind of looking at the Georgie scene and I'm kind of like, yo, if I see that Pennywise in a sewer, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, he's not gonna trick me. Like, what? Especially like Georgie's like 6. I'm like, if I saw anything looking like that at 6 years old, I'm out of there. I'm running to my mom. Like,
Honestly, I was like, I don't know. I think Bill Skarsgård Pennywise, he's like you said before, creepy, and it's just like I feel like with that Pennywise, he's able to like do a lot of tricks and what have you, and he managed to. I guess they stuck more into him being a shapeshifter form and what have you. Where like if you watch it, chapter 1, this motherfucker is everywhere. He's the librarian in the back, watching Ben. He's the painting that Stanley is afraid of. He's running around as Georgie, just to make Bill fall deeper into grief. It's insane what this guy was doing, and I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, Tim Curry's Pennywise, that's definitely a clown that, like, if you saw, you'll just think like it's a regular clown. But if he's sitting there talking about like you'll float too, you're like, oh shit, no, this is not no clown. What the fuck is this guy?
Right? Like, my only kind of critique about Tim Curry's Pennywise is, with the scenes of the adults and how he's just kind of like taunting them.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of like, all right. I mean, he's going ham on that and whatever, but it just seemed like it was more silly than scary. And it was kind of weird. I'm thinking about the library scene, you know, with like the balloons everywhere and like popping blood in, you know, everyone's faces, but he's also like making fun of the adult characters and stuff. And I was just kind of like, that's just a silly scene. It's not terrifying.
No,
I feel like, but it will scare kids, which was possibly maybe kind of the target audience to a certain extent. I don't know who the target audience was for that one, frankly. But I feel like Bill Skarsgård was definitely a Pennywise for the adults, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like, so yeah, no, he was great with that one. So both.
Well, see, that's the thing with Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise. The way he was attacking adults was he was attacking them for their trauma. And I mean, anybody that's already seen this movie before, you know, they already know like this movie is about trauma. If you didn't know it's about trauma before, welcome to the club, you know. But I felt like this movie, well, with the remake with Bill Skarsgård, he did kind of tap into like the Losers Club's trauma a little bit more. And the way the movie kind of portrayed their trauma was a little bit more like in a realistic fashion, you know, like we're like they kind of forgot about everything that happened with Pennywise, but then as soon as they walk back into Derry, all of their stuff that like they used to overcome, well, actually they didn't even overcome their traumas. They literally just walk right past it, you know? And you know, all of a sudden they come back to Derry and like now it's like, oh shit, I'm stuttering again. Oh, I feel like this helpless, slutty girl back in, you know, middle school and all that. You know, I feel like the fat kid again, you know? Like all those insecurities start to manifest over again because they never truly got over it.
Exactly. But yeah, like going into like childhood traumas and everything like that, like, well, not really childhood traumas, but let's go back to the characters and these polls too, because we got a lot to go through.
Oh man, yeah. So Bill Denbrough, Bill, what was your poll?
So going off of that, oh man, again, I'm writing down everything. I'm writing such chicken scratch. So anyway, that one was also neck and neck, but man, I can't read the actor's name. Help me out with with the 90s.
Okay, Jonathan Brandis.
Jonathan Brandis. Okay. Cool, thank you. Jonathan Brandis, 55%, and Jaden Martell, 45%. That one I would have to disagree with. I thought Jaden Martell did a great job with Bill.
Yeah.
You know, young Bill. I think he did great. I admired, I mean, again, this is within like the writing of the story, but I did like the friendship that him and Georgie had. And you could tell that he loved Georgie, and it kind of makes sense of his grief. I mean, again, like, you know, it's his kid brother and whatever. Sometimes, you know, kid brothers, you know, siblings get on your nerves, but at the same time, you love them and you want them to be safe. And you saw that with his characterization and his performance, where it's like, you know, with Jonathan Brandis' performance, he initially just seemed so annoyed with Georgie and didn't really care. Granted, that's kind of part of the writing, and now you kind of feel like when he gets older, that regret that he was kind of shit to his brother before his death, you know? Yeah. So, like, it's a little bit both, but I think overall, like, it was a better performance in the remake.
Yeah, I agree too. I don't think there's anything else I can really like put on top of that, because I thought Jaden Martell did play the role of Bill very well, and like it also showed like how Bill in the remake was trying to find different ways to kind of save Georgia, you know, between like trying to create like this little filter system to pump them out of the sewers, you know, always hanging out at the sewers or the Barrens a lot, because even though he was like tricking his friends, because honestly, Bill tricked his friends, into helping him go find Georgie and all that. He wasn't like concerned about let's be honest, he wasn't concerned about his friend's safety at all. He was more into finding his little brother than anything else, and I feel like the remake did portray that role for him with JD Martell a lot better. So moving on, let's talk about Beverly Marsh. What happened with young Beverly on your end?
Oh, it was a landslide. So Sophia Lillis, who played Beverly in the 2017, she got 90%. Where Emily, and again,
Perkins.
my handwriting, Richie.
Emily Perkins.
Holy shit, my handwriting's so bad. Emily Perkins got only 10%. I thought that was damn, why was it such a landslide though? She didn't do an awful job, Emily Perkins. She really didn't. She was a decent Beverly. Actually, the scene with the sink scene, and that I thought she did a great job too. And her whole shock and fear, and then that scene where Bowers attacks her. Oh my gosh, I felt that. I felt oh man, that made me feel nervous. And then how that old man just did not help her out and all that stuff, and kind of showing the eerie side of Derry and stuff like that. I thought that was great. She gave a really great performance. However, as far as the depiction of Beverly, again, I would have to give it to the 2017 one, because it just makes sense of the context of the overall story.
Yeah, I thought so too. For my poll, she only did Sophia Lillis did about 54% over Emily Perkins, who did 46%. So again, I don't think there's any more I could really put on top of what you said, because we pretty much touched based on Beverly earlier. As far as Ben, where was your polls on Ben?
Okay, so for for Ben, Jeremy Ray Taylor, who was in the remake, got 74%, where Brandon Crane got 28%. This one I have to heavily disagree with. I was so surprised by that one, because Brandon Crane did so good. I liked his performance. I liked how his character was in this. Granted,
they gave him a story. They gave him a
a backstory. However, one thing I wish they did in the original was mention how how he used Derry's history as an escape and going to the library, which was actually true to the book. And they did that in the remake, which was pretty cool because it helped rough everything together. However, I just thought it was a great performance from him. And, in between the two, it seemed like his characterization had multiple layers and stuff. And you could actually feel you could feel the stress of being the new kid, being the fat kid, all that stuff from both characters, being an awkward kid, with having a crush on a girl that's out of his league at the time,
Oh my God. Yeah.
But
a lot of us guys have been there.
But I just thought it was a better performance in the miniseries.
Yeah. Actually, I can't even just say all of us guys been there, because girls go through it too.
Yeah.
Girls do crush on guys that is quote unquote out of their league and don't get noticed also. But yeah, I feel you on that one. I also thought Brandon Crane was actually a better Ben compared to New Kids on a Block, Jeremy Ray Taylor, All right. Do we even have to talk about Richie? Because I feel like for both kid and adult, we know who wins.
We know who wins, and it's Finn Wolfhard. Man, that kid did the damn thing. Yes. He was hilarious. He took the assignment and he understood it. And as for the poll, Finn Wolfhard, 64% for him. Seth Green 36%.
See, mine's was close with yours. Mine's was 67-33.
Oh wow.
Favoring Finn.
But yeah, but one thing I do really like about how Seth Green's character is written for Richie is that his fear was from werewolves. And I thought that was a huge missed opportunity in the remake, because there's so many like werewolf movies in the 80s where like Richie could be afraid of. Like they could have recreated that movie scene. They could have like there's so many werewolf movies in the 80s, and even with like Thriller, Michael Jackson Loki looks like a werewolf. Oh my god.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I used to be afraid of that scene when I was a kid.
Right, me
too. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. Like, I wasn't afraid of the zombie scene. I could deal with the zombie scene. It was that fucking werewolf scene that got me. And I was just like, I don't know, maybe it's because of the way his eyes were, the way, and of course my phone isn't on silent. Being a professional, people. But yeah, I don't know what it was about like Michael Jackson being that werewolf, maybe because of the eyes, maybe because of like the transformation, how horrific it looked. But they made that the scariest music video I could ever think as a kid, you know?
Right. No, but yeah, I thought it was a missed opportunity because like going back to the movie, I thought it was a missed opportunity. I don't recall him being afraid of werewolves in the book, or at least from the summaries. Comment below and comment on the podcast if you're listening to this, like what that was. But yeah, it just seemed like again, this was within the writing. The whole thing about Richie conveniently being afraid of clowns seemed a little bit phoned in. But again, that does nothing to do with the performance itself. It's just with the depiction of the character. But I thought, Finn Wolfhard's performance in chapter 1 and, in chapter 2, we'll get into that a little bit more, was great. I mean, we
all know Bill Hader won this one. We all know Bill Hader won this one.
Okay, spoil it, nigga. No, I'm kidding. Bill Hader won. For that one, we jump in. Yeah, no, Bill Hader got 91%, and Harry Anderson, rest in peace. Yeah, you did your best, but yeah, you only got 9%.
Yeah, for Bill Hader on mine, he did 73% versus 27%. Harry Anderson. All right, so moving on next, we are going to talk about Eddie Kasparak. Young Eddie. Jake Dylan Grazer, he did 56% on mines. Adam Frazzle, I don't even know how to say his last name. I'm probably butchering it. He did 44% for mine.
Okay, mine was a little bit of a landslide. So Jack Dylan Grazer, he did 79%. I have to agree with that one. I thought it was a great performance of that one too. Like, as far as his character being like neurotic and stuff, and and his mom, frankly being abusive towards him too with her Munchausen syndrome, like because he actually believed that he was sick. It was very what's that one series? What was it called?
Oh, The Act.
The Act. It was very reminiscent of The Act.
Oh yeah, it definitely was.
Unintentionally reminiscent of that whole situation. But it's just like, Stephen King predicted that shit. But I thought he did great. He understood the assignment. He did a great job. And the characterization and the growth of the character was great. He had great lines and everything like that. Again, that was just within the writing. Not saying, the original, Adam didn't do a great job, but again, it was the material, like what I said before in the beginning, the writing for the kid characters wasn't strong,
I feel like Adam also, he looked too young to be in that movie,
Yeah, he looked like he was 5.
And going back to that one scene that I keep referencing about, it seems more like Yeah, I can't see that character from the original doing that, you know? And it's like, even if they, even though that scene did happen in the book, it kind of makes me wonder, like, how does Eddie go about this? Because he's a germaphobe.
Exactly. That's the thing too that I kind of thought about. Like, I don't want to read the scene, but yet my curiosity of how everyone handles the situation at hand. Because
Like,
he's not. I don't think he's the first one that is aligned. He's like towards the middle. So it's just like,
yeah, no, I
but
believe it
maybe
was
he
like,
gets.
I believe
I
it
don't
was
know.
Mike that went first because I read a summary of it also, and I believe it was like Mike that went first, which is kind of interesting. Like Mike went first. I would
Yeah,
have thought it
I'm
would have
shocked by
been.
that. I thought it'd be Ben, but okay,
I
Ben
think
or Bill.
I don't know. You know what? I would think like Ben would probably be more afraid because he wants to treat her fragile.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You know.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't. It is.
Let's go back
It is. It is. Fuck you, Stephen King.
just for writing that scene. Like, what the hell? We don't want to analyze this shit. Everything else we're fine with, but that scene, no. That scene alone would get us demonetized.
Oh man. But moving on to Stanley Urus.
Yeah. Wyatt Olaf got 61%, and Bill Heller got 39%. That one I would also agree to that. Wyatt did a great job as far as that character, because like Stan just seemed very plain. Again, that was just within like the writing again, but the performance itself, other than the scene where he's like terrified, like it's just bland to me, and it was just unfortunate because it's like Stan is a great character, despite of having limited screen time.
Yeah.
And you really don't feel. I mean, it's kind of sad how everything plays out in adulthood with, and again, we're going to get into that characterization later, but you don't kind of feel like, oh man, like this is the kid. Oh my gosh, this is his fate. Like you do in the remake, Yeah. He's definitely a more sympathetic character, which is he's supposed to be a sympathetic character, and you definitely feel that emotion through the remake.
Yeah. Well, my poll is a little bit different.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, 67% went with Ben Heller, while 33% went with Wyatt Olaf, which is interesting. I mean, personally, for me, I would still have to probably go with Wyatt, just because of like all the things that you've mentioned. And it does kind of like create more of a sympathy character with Stan. All right, going into Mike, who did you have? Because for me, Marlon took it for my poll 75 to 25.
Oh wow. Okay, so mine was neck and neck actually. So Marlon Taylor got 45 or 43, and then Chosen Jacobs, which was in the remake, got 57. It was really neck and neck. Like I had no idea who was gonna win. But here's the thing too about that. So when I was actually creating the polls, I completely forgot about young Mike when I was and that actually shows how forgettable young Mike is as a character, and almost like both contexts. However, I do like how his trauma in the remake is actually pinpointed a little bit more, because I think that was also I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong. His parents did die in the fire in the book, or was that added in the remake? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Okay, but anyway, I just like that element, how that was shown, another layer of trauma instead of, oh, I'm the only Black kid in a predominantly white community. Of course that is trauma within itself. However, there was that added layer and stuff, and trying to live up to what his parents, their legacy, but also not wanting to do that, like not wanting to be a butcher and all this other stuff. Like, I thought his characterization was good, and given the material, his performance was good too. Same thing could be said with Marlon Taylor. However, his character was so one-dimensional in my opinion. So you can't really say like, oh, this was good, because frankly, he was one of the most forgettable ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I've mentioned this before too. Like, he is definitely a forgettable character. I don't know. I like Mike, but I'm not like in love with the character, I do like adult Mike in the original film, played by Tim Reed, versus Isaiah Mustafa because of reasons that we will go into a little bit later.
And speaking of, let's go into those poll results too, since we're on that. So this poll result pissed me off because I have to agree with you. Tim Reed only, and this was neck and neck too. This was so neck and neck. So Tim Reed got 47%, Isaiah Mustafa got 53%. Again, neck and neck, So
really, so Mustafa got favored over Tim Reed.
Yes.
See, for my poll, it was 65-35 Tim Reed. Which I felt was proper because, well, I guess we could jump into it right now. Fuck adult Mike.
Yes, in the remake. Yes. I did not like his character at all. Like, performance was great. The depiction of the character, no. I mean, however, it was kind of true to the book.
Yeah.
It was true to the book. Especially during, the Chewed story and all this other stuff. And kind of, it was true most part, but like, I don't know. It's just like how the character was depicted in chapter 2 just seemed like vindictive and kind of had his own agenda with everything.
He had his own agenda the whole entire time. And that was the part that really annoyed me, was just like how much deceit this dude was doing. And it's just like, this guy is literally just bringing everybody to the face of death, Like, whereas in the original, which I felt like they stayed true to form, because Mike does end up getting stabbed by Bowers, and he doesn't make it to, like, where they face off against Pennywise the spider,
Exactly. And
he was more genuine. He wasn't like trying to lure everybody back to Derry just to face their trauma once again and be in the brink of death.
Exactly. Like, it seemed like it was at a genuine place, because he's like, oh my gosh, this cycle is happening again. We need to stop this, because we promised when we were kids that we were going to stop it. Like, now's the time, and it just kind of made sense with, like, his character's profession and all that. It just seemed like, a genuine spot, and he did care about his friends. It seemed like friendship was there with Tim Reed's character, and I'm like really surprised that it was so neck and neck. And I was hoping that my boy Tim Reed was going to get it, but it is what it is. But that was a shocker to me, like.
Yeah,
really was. But, and again, he was like my favorite character in the miniseries, at least as far as the adults and stuff, because I just thought the characterization was good. It went back to the novel, because actually a little bit of a foreshadow, like, he actually writes the note to everyone. It's not Stan who writes the note. So we'll
Mhm.
talk about that a little later on, which I was like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But again, context of the movie, they want to switch things up.
Yeah, speaking of adults, here's my thing. What is up with the adults in dairy? Honestly, like these have got to be the worst fucking parents I have ever like encountered. Like I know we all got like our, there's some people that are raised in good homes, some people raised in like fucking god awful homes, but Jesus, like it was just like these parents were just like off. Like there was something really off about these parents, you know?
Exactly. Like, and a book touches upon it, and I don't actually remember the reason why or how it was depicted,
Mhm.
but it was like, yeah, it's just like a cursed town for whatever reason. And again, like, but I was kind of thinking too, like, yeah, in chapter 1, you do see, a parent that actually cares for her child because she's
Mhm.
at the school. And a little bit of Easter egg, you see that you learn that Bauer's dad is a cop, and it's like, what? Like that shit I didn't catch until recently. But and that is recently as of today of recording. Because I rewatched, I was like, oh shit, but well, at least yeah. But um yeah. And that's kind of like the only character with like genuine compassion. I mean, you could argue that Eddie's mom was like that, but again, she had like Munchausen syndrome,
She
you
was
know,
abusive.
but she was abusive in that fact because she was like coddling him to the point where she didn't even like him hanging out with other people
She
and
didn't want
blamed
him
it.
to do anything.
Exactly. And that kind of goes into like, his trauma in adulthood and one thing I do like about the remake, how they stuck to the story of him marrying someone who is just like his mother,
Yeah.
instead of having him still live with his mother like they did in the miniseries.
Yeah, like I don't see it happening that way. I could see him more marrying someone that is like her, not him
Mm-hmm.
still living with her,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was also done well.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go back to these. Well, where are we at right now? Oh, the Henry Bowers, of course.
Bowers.
Bowers, and yeah, we touched on it more, but Nicholas Hamilton got 62%, and Jared Blanchard, yeah, got 38% for my poll, and I agree with that. I need to get into it a little bit more because I already did before our break.
I mean, it was a landslide, Nicholas Hamilton 75-25, and that it makes much sense because it's like looking at his trauma to the reason why he act the way he act is because he's like not because he's well it's because he's being abused by his dad. His dad's a cop, hard edge, you know, probably doing like a bunch of little shits that's like causing all types of trouble. And what does he do? He displaces his anger onto Bowers. What does Bowers do? He displaces his anger onto everyone else, like all the kids in town.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Nicholas Hamilton, like I said before, this kid looks like he can murder somebody, which he eventually does, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this kid was more of a better pick as like, Henry Bowers compared to like the original series, where like, yeah, that kid is like supposed to be the bully and racist and all this other stuff, but he doesn't seem like anybody that would commit murder, at least, even though he does, cut Ben or tries to cut Ben, in the mini series. But as far as the movie, yeah, nah, this one was like legit a killer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And
hence why he
one
was
thing,
being hence why he was easily seduced by Pennywise, you know?
Exactly. Oh, also another great thing too, a little Easter egg about I like the remix because of all the Easter eggs of this. But you see like that kids channel, or we think it's a kids channel, like public access
Oh
kids
yeah.
channel. And you see that playing, with the adults, but they're not actually watching it. You
Yeah.
always see that shit when the kids are around, and it's so crazy. And Henry Bowers is the only one who like really gets sucked into that, and that's why he wants to commit murder and stuff.
Mhm.
And I remember like the second time it's shown is in Beverly's place or Beverly's home, and you literally hear the lady on the show saying, "Oh, it's fun to hang out in the sewers with your friends." Like
Mhm.
that is fucking crazy.
But then you hear like later on in that scene, it switches onto like a baseball game or the news. I can't remember which one it was.
It was a baseball game.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like, and this was my thing. I was like, okay, so who's hearing this? Like, who's literally hearing what's happening on the television? Is it the parents and the kids, or is it just the kids that can hear it?
I feel like it's just the kids that can hear it because again, it's like supposed to be like a Sesame Street, kids show
Yeah.
type of thing. But it's just like, but it's Pennywise trying to get kids to either die or kill other people.
Yep. Actually, kind of going back to like, the history. Okay, here's something that is probably gonna make you go like, what the fuck? So, you know how like they say Pennywise is supposed to terrorize the town every 30 years? All right, so think about that for a second. Every 30 years. If you're thinking about like someone who's 1 to 30, by 30, someone can have a kid. So I'm thinking in my head right now, and I just thought about this like maybe like today or the day before. Shouldn't there have been like some type of like family, like warning, if you're a family that lived in Derry for like a long time, a very long time, how come no one was just like, hey, every 30 years there's like this creepy ass clown that's in the sewers that kills kids. So I'm telling you just to be careful, Like I feel like it should be like someone's grandparent, like even if it's not someone's direct parent, it should be somebody's grandparent that has had some type of contact with this creepy ass dude,
You know what? That is so true. But like, here's the thing. Like, again, book has to book, movie has to movie.
That's why I felt like it was literally like you're telling me how long this dude's been terrorizing these people. There hasn't been one person that's escaped and just been like, yo, there's a fucking creepy clown that's like attacking us.
I can agree with you on that, but to a certain extent, in like the universe of it all, a lot of the people who have witnessed Pennywise have not lived to, see the day.
Well, true. That is true.
So that's my defense of the book and the movie. Two, there's some corruption going on in the town and the manipulation of Pennywise. That's my whole theory. It took me a while to think about it, like to answer your question about why the parent, like everyone's like that. But I think it is because of the manipulation of Pennywise ultimately. But there is a reason behind that. But I think it ultimately like not all the kids see Pennywise, but when they do, they don't live, and that's why the Losers Club is a different situation.
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of a good reason, because that's been like my thing about it. Like I feel like there should be like, someone who has been like, yo, there's a fucking creepy clown like in the sewers, yo.
But one thing I do like about the miniseries though is like Seth Green's Richie actually says like, oh, there's a werewolf downstairs, and all the kids are laughing at him. So it's like they've never experienced some shit like that, or like, you know, if, or even like they come down in the remake, like he's like, hey, there's a clown to like some kids or whatever, and then everyone's like laughing, like, I haven't seen any clowns or whatever, or like that could be the connection, like, hey, what about? Well, I think they mentioned that too, like that clown or whatever. But it's only the people that have actually experienced that, you know, and it's not like oh, he terrorizes all the kids. He just does it one by one, you know.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, dude's well, I mean, I guess he can't be at more places than once. He's not like Freddy Krueger who haunts people in their dreams and all that, where he could be at multiple places. I feel like Freddy could be at multiple places just because he's in the dream world. But Pennywise, he's just like that one entity, you know, he can't be at multiple places because, you know, he's in the real world. But I'm just like, dude is terrorizing kids, and I don't know how he picks his kids that he terrorizes or just goes after, you know?
He has like a raffle.
Yo, I'm just saying, like, there should be no kids in Derry.
But you know, like having like watched the film pretty recently, like chapter 1, they mentioned like, hey, you know, Derry has like the highest death rate, you know, and kids are a lot, you know, with like, I think they said like 6% or like the, you know, highest murder rate or some shit. And then they said, but it's like worse for kids. So they like mentioned that, which I thought was fascinating. But yeah, if you want to go back into some of the adult pulse, now we're talking about like adult trauma and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I feel like I want to kind of like go through them quickly though.
Oh yeah.
So we could kind of get into the meat and potatoes of all the fuck shit with chapter 2.
Of course.
Yeah. But as a matter of fact, to kind of run through it fast, can you state some of your winners?
Oh yeah, so James McAvoy was the winner for Adult Bill. Jessica Chastain, with 68%. Jessica Chastain was 69%. Ooh, 69. Jessica Chastain, sorry. Okay, anyway. Bill Hader by a landslide, 91%. Yeah, we already went through that.
Yeah.
And John Ritter, 55%. I don't know why this was like, you know, back and forth. Like this was kind of neck and neck too. But honestly, John Ritter did the damn thing with that one. Jay Bryant just seemed boring to me. He was honestly forgettable. Like when it came to that character, I forgot. As far as Eddie, what was it? Is it Jason Bean?
John
Bean?
James Bean? James Ranson.
James Ranson. My bad. Oh my god. Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, you're thinking of Andy Bean.
I'm thinking Andy Bean. Okay, yes. Okay, Andy Bean. He won for Stan, and yeah, Jason Ranson for Eddie. 79%, which I have to agree. And by the way, that casting was amazing for that character. Like actually, for all the adult characters were so great, and actually, a little fun backstory about that. Actually, for the most part, the kids actually picked the casting for their, like the kids in chapter 1 picked the casting for chapter 2. So yeah, good job on them. Yay.
Yeah. All right. So to kind of run through my polls real quick, Richard Thomas won with 52%. Annette O'Toole won with 52%. John Ritter won with 75%. Bill Hader, of course, is the one that won, 73. I mean, it's hands down, he was the best one. James Ransoon won with 52%. Tim Reed won with 65. Andy Bean won with 52. And Michael Cole actually won with 64%.
What? Okay. Oh yeah, Teach Grant for me won with 62%. I'm surprised by that. Like what? I think okay. Granted, our followers are a little bit different because like a lot of my followers, like they're not like diehard horror movie fans. Some of them are, but like your fans obviously love horror movie, your followers and stuff. So I can kind of understand why it's a little bit more neck and neck before, and maybe and probably there is a little bit of that bias, for the remakes, and more recognizable actors and stuff like that from other works, especially for Jessica Chastain. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of Jessica Chastain stands on my on my profile and stuff, and I also am a fan of hers as well. But yeah, like I was very shocked by a lot of the people picking the remake characters or remake adult versions because how I phrased the question was like best depiction of the characters, and the original miniseries did a better job, surprisingly, but they did a better job for the most part. My only exception is Beverly could have been a lot better, because I was kind of like, Beverly, where are you at, girl? Like, I know you went through a lot of trauma, but why are you making out with Bill? Like, why are, like, her acting was all right. Annette O'Toole's was okay. What was some other stuff that I kind of had a problem with her? I mean, the scene when she revisits the house is pretty good. That was her stand-up moment. Same thing with Jessica Chastain. So good that it ended up in the trailer.
Well, since we on part 2, I mean, let's just get into all the.
Let's go into it. Yeah, why not?
What the fuck is wrong with part 2? Why is it so terrible? Why is it so terrible?
You know what? It's so crazy because I honestly thought there was a different director for part 2 in my mind after rewatching this, because it seemed like it wasn't the same director, but it was, but it just seemed like there was a little bit of a disconnect about the rules of Pennywise, even though Stephen King actually breaks his own rules too, because there's that opening scene with the gay couple, but and I was kind of like, well, that's random. Pennywise only kills kids, not kids in dairy, not gay couples. But that
gay
was
couples that weren't even from dairy,
exactly. That's what I was surprised about. But come to find out with some research, that scene was in the book, and it was actually a long scene. And I was just like, what? Like, Stephen King, you've been breaking your own rules of Pennywise. You said, oh, Pennywise is doing a rebranding for 30 years. He's will switch it up. He tired of times. And that was the biggest loss or opportunity. I wish they had recreated the opening scene in the miniseries, not the Georgie scene. I'm not talking about Georgie scene. I'm talking about the scene where the girl with the tricycle and you see Pennywise in between the sheets and stuff. Oh, that sounded weird. It's between the sheets. Well, it's a laundry or whatever. Horror fans, you know what I'm talking about. Obviously, they created that to be bloody. And you see blood splatter on the sheets. So sheets have been dope as fuck. But they didn't do that. Anyway, hey, if y'all want to make a chapter 3, have me be one of the writers. And we're gonna recreate that scene, fam. We're gonna recreate that. Even though it wasn't in the book, but we're gonna recreate that scene because that would have been awesome. What's another thing too?
That clubhouse. The clubhouse in the timeline of the creation of it. I don't know how or when they because in part 1 it's clear that they're all hanging out at the Barrens in the sewers a lot because of Bill. Where does Ben get the time to just create this clubhouse that's underground? And he's just like, oh yeah, in a couple of weeks from that time we were all separated, I managed to create this clubhouse in a matter of weeks. What?
It doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm just kind of all right, but they didn't even hang out. but that's the thing, the timeline of it all, because in our understanding of chapter 1, it was like, oh, Pennywise is terrorizing this, this clown. It is terrorizing everything. And then, they have a one moment that is like, their friendship breaks up and they do their own thing. And then they get back together for that final battle. And then Beverly leaves for Portland, Maine. Where does the clubhouse fit in? It does not fit in anywhere, because in the clubhouse, all of them are hanging out together. And it's just kind of like, when was this? It wasn't, after, they jump into the river together, because, or maybe it was, but we just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make logical sense of this, but there really isn't any.
There isn't. I'm still lost on how all that came about or how it was created. I'm just like, yo.
It was just filler. That's really it is.
It felt like just straight up filler, just so it could do that scene of, your hair is winter fire and all that. So she could finally get the message, even though he told her when they were young in part 1.
See, that was another annoying thing, is like they were so quick to forget that happened. And she's just like, no, Bill wrote that. It's like, no, he didn't. What the fuck? He doesn't want you anyway. He married.
Well, his wife seemed pretty invisible in the remake.
Which another disappointing thing was too. And I kind of wish they added the bike scene, especially since they showed the bike in chapter 1, and they actually showed the name of the bike and all that stuff. Like, missed opportunity. Like, that's the problem with chapter 2. Too many missed opportunities with a almost 3-hour-long movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why so much filler? Why so much boring parts of it? I freaking fell asleep the last time I watched it. Like, honestly, the best part of the movie is like the beginning. Other than that, like, I mean, I'm making it seem like it's the worst film ever, but it's just so disappointing, Like, I mean, again, when it comes to like the discussions of trauma, they did a great job talking about that and how trauma affects adulthood, and and trying to navigate those waters, like, so to speak.
Well, see, that's the thing with the remake. I feel like they did show like how a lot of the characters, their trauma, and this is one of the questions I kind of like posed on my poll, was like, does trauma affect you in adulthood? A lot of people agree, yes, it does, because it does affect people when you get older. It's just about how you deal with your trauma.
Exactly.
Some people ignore it. Some people, they end up being in a stagnated space. Some people just, like, I don't know, do destructive things in their trauma, with a lot of the characters, it seems like they never really faced their trauma, where like they just forgot about everything. As soon as they got away from Derry, they forgot about everything.
Exactly. Like, and I think that whole thing is a great metaphor about like that escapism that people that experience trauma have, and trauma within adulthood. You want to try to forget things that have happened. You want to distract yourself. You want to, redeem yourself by successes. Like, everyone is a big success in their own right, and that's kind of, and it's a good representation. It doesn't seem like out of the ordinary. And I thought that was just really great writing in that, but how it's kind of metaphorical. They forget everything until they get that one phone call. But I think that's a good metaphor for repressed emotion, and everything. And then you know, and then the phone call is that one trigger, you know, that triggers all the trauma that they experience. And, you know, they get back to that. And then that's how their memory, you know, works. And, you know, Pennywise takes advantage of that too. Especially with Beverly and actually all the characters really. But I'm just thinking about that scene where Beverly goes to her childhood home and she actually sees like her dad's name on the near the doorbell or whatever, and then it's actually someone else's name, and then she's like, oh, and she doesn't even know like her father passed away and stuff, like all that stuff. So it's just
yeah, she totally avoided like any connections with him, you know. But see, it goes back to like now what I was stating earlier, like where was the parents in all this? And honestly, like even though as good of a friendship as the Losers Club had, you know, my question was these kids a good support group for each other? You know, because it's like I was reading like a lot of stuff about about childhood trauma. You know, obviously, I probably should have been reading more about it, but I was reading more about childhood trauma because I just found the topic of it being very interesting. You know, because this is what this movie is based on. And with most people that deal with trauma, you know, one way to get, you know, by your trauma is to have a good support group, you know, whether that's family, friends, you know, whoever you could trust, you know, have a good support system around you. Now, I'm thinking like in the terms of like the Losers Club, that was literally not a really good support group, no matter how you try and frame it. Yeah, they're good friends, but it's like, did they really help each other through the trauma? Because as soon as Mike called them, it's like Bill was like, like,
exactly.
you know, they're all going back scared shitless again. And Stan is like, nah, bro, I'm good. Fuck that, fam. I'm taking myself out of this game. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that was, you know, that's a really great question. I never actually really thought about it, but they ultimately are trauma bonding. All of them are going through something coincidentally, and then they're experiencing this whole thing together. Like, you know, the main Losers Club group was Stan, Eddie, Bill, and Richie. Those were like the main ones. And then Beverly came in, and then Ben came through, and then Mike later on because of the well, Ben with, you know, being bullied, and then, you know, oh, and then I guess in the miniseries, Beverly was always kind of there too. Was she? Or did she just like happen to like fall into the Losers Club group?
She fell in also in
yeah,
the
but she fell into the Losers Club group, and then, you know, so you know, for the following characters, they just took them under their wing, you know, because of trauma, and then they're all experiencing the trauma from Pennywise. So it's just like ultimately it's not like a genuine blossoming friendship. They're only sticking by each other because they're going through this thing together. But then, like, once they figure it out, they defeated a Pennywise. They do not talk to each other.
Yeah.
At least I know of until years later. Except Beverly in the remake, she somehow has Stan's number.
Which is so dumb. It's like it's like, why is Mike the one calling everybody when she could have literally been like, oh, I got Stan's number, blah, blah, blah. You know, like the movie.
That was one thing. I was like, writer, did you like forget like the did y'all forget that y'all are supposed to lose contact? Why the hell? Like, it seemed like she was buddy with like Stan and his wife, because she's like, oh yeah, that was Stan's wife. Like, what, girl? Like,
yeah.
But, yeah, that was another weird thing that happened. But, you know, positives though, like that scene in the Chinese restaurant was very good.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
And again, the food looked bomb as fuck. I'm really hungry. That's before we get to the fortune cooking part. But yeah, no, that's the way you do it. You get like a bunch of big plates and pick off the plates. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. But
yeah.
going back to the trauma bonding, it makes me wonder, like, what was their friendship after the Pennywise situation? Like, did they all, because we understand, like, in the remake, you know, Beverly, she pretty much is moving to Portland, she's pretty much leaving Derry. But the guys, I'm wondering, like, okay, what happened this in between years with the guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's very fascinating because like you don't know, and it just seemed like they just all decided to go their separate ways for whatever reason. They didn't really have a friendship, which I was kind of like, that was just very odd. Like, you could, granted, they were like in 8th grade, but I doubt there's gonna be like, I think it was a middle school.
They live in a small town.
They live in a small town.
They live in a small town,
and that would make sense in the context of the clubhouse. But Beverly was there at the clubhouse, so again, that was like a really weird plot hole for both the book and the miniseries and the movie. I mean, I don't know if it's visited in the book, but they just had a big falling out. Because it's like there was those high school years, unless if all of them were like, yo, I'm gonna live my life. I'm kind of done with this. Like, so I'm, going back, like, I don't think their friendship was actually that genuine, even from the jump, with the original 4. Like,
yeah, because keep in mind, a lot of them were very hesitant when Mike called. And he's trying to get them to all face Pennywise. And, Mike seemed like the only one who was really passionate about, this whole promise. But it's like, yeah, the only reason why you're only passionate about it is because you never really officially moved on. You're still stagnant and stuck in that, this is what happened state. And, I'm still trying to keep vigilant because, hey, maybe I'll get my best friends back, because those are some of my good years and what have you.
Definitely. Like, no, that's a good point, and actually makes sense too. And each character represents a coping mechanism of trauma, which I like with this overall story, and I think it's very creative to represent that in different ways. But it's going on like about the movie and about the ending. How do you feel like with Stan's coping mechanism?
Oh God.
And how that kind of related to the ending of the movie, at least.
Oh my God. I mean, one thing I could say is never the way. But I feel like the way the remake played it off, they kind of glorified it a little bit, and it's like the characters, they weren't really that sad about it, and it just, that note itself kind of justifying the actions, I felt like it was just literally a disgusting act. It was just like, I felt like it was like a bad ending to just a character that tragically ended their life,
Exactly. Like, I agree with that too, and how that whole letter at the end kind of made it like, oh, it's a sacrifice, all this other stuff, instead of like, whoa, this is shocking, this is traumatic. Because actually in Stephen King's book, like in the original book, the way he actually offs himself is he actually like chops himself up limb by limb, which is insane, right? So
which
it's just
is
like,
how is that possible? How Sway? How?
Stephen King's gonna Stephen King.
Yeah.
You know? But that's the thing too. Like, I don't know. Like,
But you know
again,
what?
I didn't read the book.
You know what? I'm gonna take a different turn about this, and maybe some people might not like it. But maybe the letter was kind of a little justified for maybe just how fucked up his mindset really was. You know, as in like, think about somebody that wants to commit suicide or actually falls through to committing suicide. You know, like they would have to be in like such a damning place to where they write a letter. And what do you think a letter like a person who is about to commit that would be? It'll be something similar to Stan's in a way. You know, they'll feel like, you know, that they'll be holding people back. They'll be, you know, holding, you know, doing a lot of wrong in life for other people. You know, they're not going to be living for their best expectation. They're not going to be the best player in this whole game of life and whatever. So instead, they're going to see themselves as a sacrifice and just totally check themselves out. Now, what I don't like is that fucking happy music that they play in this movie.
I know. Like, why did you have to do the happy music? And then like the look on his face when he's just like mentions like, if you're reading this, you know what happened, or like whatever, like that little smirk that he gives to the camera. I'm like, what the fuck? And stuff like that. The happy music at the end. I mean, granted, there was letters in both versions, except, you know, the original was Mike's letter, which makes sense, from the hospital. And then there's Stan's letter, you know, that kind of like, oh, Losers Club, I love you, but I couldn't do it. Sorry. But keep on going on without me. Y'all are amazing, you know. And it also kind of was a letter to represent Eddie too, or Eddie's fate. So like, but again, I like the bike scene better. I like the bike ending.
Oh my god.
I prefer that one than the triumphant, like, oh, give Stan more film or screen time. Shit.
It was definitely poorly executed. It was.
I mean, yeah. They just wanted something reminiscent to kind of put everyone back together again. They didn't want to show everything. I don't know.
I mean, because if you think about it, it's a really dark, like, take all the happy music out. It's a really dark letter, you know? But it's like the actors, they should be portraying a facial expression that's just like, fuck. Like, you know, like
actual grief. Like, and that's why the adult version, you know, or the version of the adults in the miniseries is a lot stronger, because you actually see that grief and anguish and stuff by finding out the news. You actually see, I mean, even though it's kind of badly acted, you see his wife completely terrified. Like, it's a horror scene. It's not some poetic sacrifice as part two is painting it to be, like, from the jump. Like, you know, you see the juxtaposition of him taking the blood oath, and then how that, you know, mirrors, you know, his act and stuff. And it's just kind of like, why are you trying to make this all poetic where it never was supposed to be poetic from the first place?
I know, like, it feels like a Shakespearean play, like, oh my god, I'm gonna kill myself because I can't bear to see myself face off against this killer clown from outer space.
Exactly. Know? Like that. Yeah. No, and I'm not trying to be like, you know, seem like a Stephen King gatekeeper, but I was hoping that, like, because I'm far from that. But I really think they should have kept with the mood of the book, you know, in that regard, because it just seemed so phoned in.
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't a satisfying ending
No.
to everything. It wasn't. So that's my biggest problem with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it because I feel like there's more to go into, but I don't want to make this super long.
I don't know. Maybe we have to do a chapter 2 of this.
That part. But yeah, thank you, Megan, for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Like, again, very awesome episode. We could talk about this movie forever. I was about especially chapter 1 because that show was amazing. Yeah, no, all the Easter eggs. Like, honestly, one of those movies, like chapter 1, you have to watch that movie multiple times to get everything, and I think that's why it's brilliant. Frankly, I know we said a lot in chapter 2, but chapter 1, excellent remake, because at the end of the day, too, with all of this, we can learn from it. Like, this was a remake that needed to happen, with it kind of not giving it, justice with having it be a mini series on ABC with all the violence and stuff. I mean, granted, you can't put everything in a movie, but this was an example of a remake that needed to be a film that needed to be remade.
Yeah.
Or at least on another text too, because it went from TV to a movie, and I think that's a perfect way to do everything. So,
yeah.
Overall, thumbs up. I'm glad it happened.
I give it 2 dead kittens up.
Oh
my god! Gotta make it creepy. But anyway, if you want people to find you on social media, what are those social medias?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok.
Oh yeah, I forgot about TikTok. I'm on TikTok too.
Yeah,
I forget about that one.
Those are my main social medias. You can also follow me on Twitter too. All of them are at Meaganzworld. That is MEAGANZ World. And yeah, if you wanted to see like some film stuff and cosplay stuff, and just TikTok is kind of all over the place, but it's still fun. It's just me. Meaganzworld. And also I'm on the Sauce Talks too. That's on Twitch. Again, all the links are in my bio for my Instagram, so definitely check that out. I talk about all subjects on the Sauce Talks, and it's really fun. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yep. All right. So thank you once again, Megan, for coming to the show. Yeah! Welcome to the Slasher Corner, everybody, where I always suggest you a must-watch slasher movie of the week. And I gotta say right now, we're not gonna have a slasher movie of the week, but you know what? Let's just take the time to rock out to this new beat provided by Kelly the Wolf. Let's talk for a moment. All you guys out here just rocking with me, we're not a large crowd. We're not a big crowd. We're not like, anybody famous or anything like that. That's not what we do. We do it here for the love of horror movies, art, and everything else, in between, nerd culture and everything like that. But I just want to say thank you all for rocking with me. For those that are listening to the podcast, those that are actually giving it likes, comments, and those that kind of follow me on Instagram and, rock with your boy, have conversations with your boy and everything like that. I just want to say, it has been a very interesting experience. I mean, it's something I never really... Thank you to Megan for coming to the show. I want to thank her one more time. The World of Doom will be coming back pretty soon. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, just keep your eyes peeled for that, Make sure you guys check out her show, The Sauce Talk. You know, they every Sunday on Twitch around 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You know, you're on the East Coast, it's a little bit late, but you know they got episodes that come out every Wednesday, so they got you on that. But other than that, your boy is signing out for the week. This has been another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. If you want to follow your boy once again on social medias are Walterdoom on Instagram, Walterdoom1 on Twitter, Walterdoom on everything else, and the Walterdoom on TikTok. So yeah, I mean, all you gotta do is follow your boy, you know, give him some love, give him some likes, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But anyway, I am signing out. This has been another episode. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Peace and stay diabolical.